Welcome, everyone. Today we will be presenting the Fisheries Field Sampling app. We were working for the Nebraska Game and Parks Fisheries Division. They are a group that works on surveying different bodies of water throughout Nebraska. They not only do that, but they also maintain and stock the lakes with different fish species and everything for recreation. And previously, when they were taking surveys of the different fish species and different water bodies, they're using a pen and paper method of writing down each fish that they came across. And so far, it was a pretty inefficient method, so we are looking to improve this. So some of the people that had an interest in this project included the different biologists that work with the Nebraska Game and Parks, different fisheries research specialists that were using the data that this application will be collecting, as well as different people throughout the Nebraska Game and Parks Fisheries Division who, again, will be using this data for various methods. So I'd like to introduce the team. I'm Hunter Eastman.
I'm Patrick Orrell.
Yep, and the rest of our team is not here, but they were Cameron, Aleka, Michael, and Jaden. So I want to go into more detail on the exact problem that we were trying to solve with this application. So as mentioned before, they're using pen and paper on different sheets. It can be a bit time-consuming to look up different, the right area to mark down different places. And it was also inefficient due to the fact that the sponsors had to record the data on the sheet and then type it into a computer later on. So the data was being entered twice. So we saw an opportunity here to really improve on this and through an application and allow the users to just enter the data once and then upload it to the data later on. So the specific solution that we built was a progressive web application, a PWA. This allowed the users to use a website that they can then download to their tablet and use offline, which is important for being able to use the tablet out on the lake. So once the user comes back with the tablet and has an internet connection again, they can then press a button to submit the data to the database. And our application has multiple different features built into it, including different data validation to ensure that no user enters a typo. There's different parts of it for entering different age structures, different other types of samples besides just numerical data. And we also integrated a light mode, dark mode inter-application, which allows the application to be used in different rugged conditions, like when it is dark outside without attracting too many different insects. And we also added authentication to this to ensure that the application is secure when the users are uploading the data. So now I'll pass it off to Patrick to talk more about our specific application that we built.
Yeah, so I'm the development manager for our team, and I'm going to just take us through a pretty simple use case going through a sample within our application. So here's our home screen. You'll notice at the bottom we have the last fetch to make sure that the user has the most up-to-date information within the data set. So going to a new sample, we can go to the next. We can have all the sample metadata that the user will insert. All of these tables are filled within the data that we pull from the database that the sponsors have provided us. Going throughout the thing, once you start your sample, you'll pull up the fish species selection, which you'll return to this page anytime you have to insert a new species. One of the big things with how this application works is that you have to be able to handle many different species at any given time on the data entry page. Here's the data entry page. We actually the best thing that we got to do with the sponsors was go out fishing out on a lake. This provided us a great insight into knowing what the workflow was going to look like and how we needed to structure the application. At first, we were planning on having the data entry page to look more like a spreadsheet. We found out that was not going to work. It was going to have to use too many inputs throughout the application. So on this page, there's a lot that you can do. You can select any different species. That's at the top row. That's the fish species selection bar. This large grid that you're seeing is probably going to be one of the most used things, which is the fish frequency page, which has, if you pull a fish out and you know that you're going to be catching a lot of these, you might have to just record around how large they are, and you'll just measure them, throw them out of the boat, and whoever's recording the data will insert that data in. Maybe you'll have to insert in specific length, specific weight, but then you might also have to insert in age structures. How age structures work is we had to implement QR codes into this application as well. Age structures, whenever you're maybe trying to figure out how old the fish is, maybe scrape off some scales, doesn't hurt the fish at all. Put those into a small envelope, and each of those will correspond to a ID within the database. And we'll pull that from the QR code that will scan the QR code, and we'll save it right here. Another thing that you might need to save is comments, tags, and anything else. Any specific comment about the fish, if there's something abnormal or something to note, that'll be stored at the top. Any keywords, maybe the gender that you have to store, and then any tags that you have onto the fish as well. And that's it for that page. Once we have then we have the previous fish. In addition to all of those pages before, any fish that was inserted in that had a specific length, a specific weight, will be saved within the previous fish, that you can edit that specific length, edit that specific weight, edit the comment, edit the structure, edit anything that you saved within the fish. This is the general stats page. Within your sample, you can have a good guess about how many fish you've collected, about what the number of structures were, and the number of weights within each specific fish. This is the previous fish samples page. This page shows all of the different samples that you've collected before you've submitted it to the database. Clicking this button would take us to our Auth, our authentication platform, and would allow the user to submit to the database. Once a successful push has been put to the database, then all the information on the device would be cleared so that the tablet stays free of any unnecessary information. In addition to all the fish data entry, there's also water quality input that also is necessary when out on the field. And it's very similar to the sample metadata page that you've seen previously, but it has a couple of adjustments specifically for water quality. And again, with the water quality inputs, very similar to the fish data, or the previous fish samples page. So some of the things that we got to learn, and the highlights and the values of this project, was that we got to greatly reduce the amount of time it takes to input data when out on a survey. We got to implement security, usability, and flexibility with Auth, dark mode, and a downloadable website. We got a lot of different things that we got to apply together and pack within the application that we were very excited about. Our application is actually is the foundation of a division-wide effort. They have many different things that they're changing within their the way that they handle data entry, that we are very happy that we got to be a part of this process with them in changing the way that they submit data and modernizing that. So thank you guys so much for letting us be a part of this. And lastly, do we have any questions about the application?
What's Auth?
Auth is the authentication, so it's like a login system. It's a third party. The question was, what is Auth? Auth is the authentication third party software that we use for logging in, so that so that someone because it's just out on a website, anyone can access the website, but we only want people who have the authorization to submit to the database.
Are there any other questions?
We have time for one more if there is one.
I was just curious about what was the most challenging thing about the project overall?
You want to discuss continuous deployment?
No. I was that deployment was definitely very, very challenging. I think probably one of the biggest challenging parts of this project was finding out all of the different requirements and all the different technologies and implementing so many of them together. I think was very difficult. I think we did accomplish it. And I'm very happy with what we did, but it was definitely very challenging along the way.
Yeah, I mean, to list some of those things, we had to implement authentication, implement light mode, dark mode overlays, implement QR code reading functionality, along with, again, handling all the requirements for the database and all the different pages.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for coming.